Crowns, cameras, and perfect smiles. Then suddenly, nothing. From Hollywood sets to small-town streets, these women vanished under circumstances so disturbing they still haunt investigators today. Some were days from fame, others were loved, watched, and protected, or so it seemed. What really happened to them? Here's 5 beauty queens who vanished without a trace. Story 1. In the summer of 1983, Florida's sun-bleached highways and quiet beach towns hid a mystery that still refuses to fade. Tammy Lynn Leppert was young, beautiful, and on the edge of a promising future when something changed almost overnight. Fear replaced confidence, silence replaced answers, and one morning, Tammy vanished, leaving behind only unanswered questions and a case frozen in time. Tammy Lynn Leppert was born on February 5, 1965, and raised in Rockledge, Florida. From a young age, she stood out, tall, striking, and confident. Tammy found success early in competing in nearly 300 beauty pageants, winning numerous local and regional titles, leading her to take home about 280 crowns. Friends and family described her as outgoing, ambitious, and deeply motivated. She dreamed of modeling and acting, and she was already getting noticed. As a teenager, Tammy worked professionally as a model, appearing on the cover of CoverGirl magazine in October 1978. She later landed small acting roles in Little Darlings, 1980, and Spring Break, 1983, before making a brief appearance in Scarface, filmed partly in Florida. To those around her, Tammy looked like a rising star. But behind the scenes, something began to unravel. Tammy Lynn Leppert disappeared on July 6, 1983, in Cocoa Beach, Florida. She was just 18 years old. That morning, she left her home with a friend, climbed into a car, and was never seen again. No confirmed sightings, no physical evidence, no trace of where she went or why she never returned. In the weeks leading up to her disappearance, Tammy's behavior reportedly shifted dramatically. After the spring break shoot was finished, she went unaccompanied to a party. She became convinced she had witnessed something disturbing, something she believed put her life in danger. She refused to eat or drink anything prepared by others, fearing poisoning. She slept with the lights on. She told loved ones she was afraid someone was trying to kill her. On the morning of July 6th, Tammy left her family's home with a male friend. Accounts differ on where they were headed, but what's clear is that Tammy asked to be dropped off somewhere along State Road A1A near Cocoa Beach. She left behind her purse and personal belongings in the car. After that moment, she vanished completely. Law enforcement launched an investigation, but the case quickly stalled. There were no witnesses who saw Tammy after she exited the car. No confirmed sightings followed. Over the years, investigators explored multiple theories, ranging from foul play to voluntary disappearance, but none were proven. Some speculated Tammy may have encountered the wrong person after being dropped off. Others wondered if the fear she expressed was tied to something she had seen and never reported. Despite periodic tips and renewed interest, no solid evidence has ever emerged to explain what happened. Tammy's family never stopped searching. Her mother, in particular, worked tirelessly to keep Tammy's name in the public eye, hoping someone, somewhere, would come forward with the missing piece. Decades later, Tammy's case remains one of Florida's most haunting, unsolved disappearances. Her story continues to circulate online, in documentaries, and in true crime communities, kept alive by those who refuse to let her be forgotten. What if Tammy really did witness something she wasn't supposed to see? And what happened in the moments after she stepped out of that car, alone, afraid, and never seen again? Story 2. On a cold December night in South Carolina, a young woman set out on what should have been an ordinary path, but she never made it home. What was meant to be a fresh start after heartbreak instead became one of the most disturbing missing person mysteries of the decade. A locked car, unanswered calls, and connections that still leave investigators and family searching for the truth. This is the disappearance of Heather Elvis, a case that refuses to fade. Heather Rochelle Elvis was born on June 30th, 1993, in Horry County, South Carolina. Raised in a tight-knit community, she was known for her beauty, warmth, and ambition. Friends described her as outgoing and hopeful, with big dreams for the future. After graduating from St. James High School in 2011, Heather moved into her own apartment in Carolina Forest, where she lived with a roommate while studying cosmetology. She worked as a hostess at popular Myrtle Beach restaurants, including the Tilted Kilt and the House of Blues, earning praise for her friendliness and strong work ethic. To those closest to her, Heather was independent and spirited, a young woman determined to build a life on her own terms. But beneath that confidence, she was navigating complicated personal relationships that would later become central to the mystery surrounding her disappearance. Heather was just 20 years old when she vanished on the night of December 17th into the early morning hours of December 18th, 2013. That evening, she went on a date with a man named Steve Schiraldi, who later told investigators he dropped her off at her apartment around 1:15 a.m. It was the last confirmed time she was seen by anyone not involved in the investigation. Roughly 20 minutes later, unusual activity appeared on Heather's phone. Records suggest she received a call from a payphone, followed by several outgoing calls, including one to a roommate, and others believed to be attempts to reach someone she knew. After that, her phone went silent. Nearly 2 days later, at 10:43 p.m. on December 19th, police discovered Heather's dark green 2011 Dodge Intrepid parked and locked at the Peachtree boat landing along the Waccamaw River in Socastee. Inside, there were no keys, no purse, and no phone. Heather was nowhere nearby. Despite extensive searches of the river and surrounding areas, no trace of her was found, and her body has never been recovered. Investigators quickly focused on Heather's previous relationship with a married man, 37-year-old Sidney Moorer. Sidney and his wife, Tammy Moorer, soon became key figures in the case. Both were charged with kidnapping and obstruction of justice. Murder charges were later dropped due to insufficient evidence, but Sidney was ultimately convicted and sentenced to 30 years in prison, while Tammy was also found guilty on related charges. Even with those convictions, the most important questions remain unanswered. Without a body or definitive physical evidence, the exact circumstances of Heather's disappearance are still unclear. Conflicting statements, phone records, and surveillance footage continue to fuel speculation, but nothing has conclusively explained what happened that night. Heather's parents, Terry and Debbie Elvis, have never stopped searching for answers. Every year on December 18th, they hold a candlelight vigil at Peachtree Landing, honoring Heather and reminding the public that her story is far from over. More than a decade later, their hope remains the same: to bring Heather home and finally know the truth. What happened in the hours between Heather's last phone call and her abandoned car at the river? And if someone knows more than they've said, why hasn't the truth come to light? Story 3. On an October evening in a quiet Georgia town, a beloved teacher and former beauty queen stepped out into what should have been a normal night and was never seen again. Her disappearance left a small community stunned and the nation searching for answers. For years, her case defied explanation and drew relentless public attention. This is the story of Tara Grinstead and the mystery that still lingers in Ocilla, Georgia. Tara Faye Grinstead was born on November 14, 1974, in Hawkinsville, Georgia. She grew up in small-town America, known among friends and family as warm, generous, and deeply involved in her community. Tara's path to adulthood included an early love of pageants, where she competed not for fame, but to help fund her education. In 1999, she won the title of Miss Tifton, a local beauty pageant that advanced her to the Miss Georgia competition, a testament to her poise, confidence, and presence. After college, Tara pursued a career in education. She earned her degree and went on to teach 11th grade history at Irwin County High School in Ocilla, where she was beloved by students and colleagues alike. Beyond school walls, she often coached local pageant hopefuls, passing on her experience and encouraging young women to chase their dreams. Friends described Tara as compassionate, dedicated, and selfless, the kind of person who would personally help a student whose house had burned down. Tara vanished on the night of October 22nd, 2005, from her home in Ocilla, Georgia, a rural town in the heart of the American South. She was last seen leaving a neighborhood barbecue and beauty pageant event, a place where she had recently helped coach young contestants, and then returning home. The next morning, she never showed up for work at Irwin County High School. Her car was parked outside her house, but Tara was gone, and there was no clue as to where she had gone, how, or why. Ocilla is the kind of small town where everyone knows each other, and a disappearance like Tara's was almost unimaginable. There were no signs of forced entry, no clear indication of a struggle, and no immediate leads. Yet the atmosphere in the community changed instantly, from quiet familiarity to anxious uncertainty. On October 22nd, 2005, Tara spent the day helping young contestants prepare for a local beauty pageant and later attended a neighborhood barbecue. She was seen leaving the cookout around 11 p.m., walking to her car before driving home. That was the last confirmed sighting of her alive. The next morning, when she didn't show up for work, friends and co-workers grew worried. Police were called to her home, where they found Tara's personal items, including her cell phone inside the house and her car still parked outside. Her purse and keys were missing, but there was no indication she had planned to leave town. The disappearance of Tara Grinstead quickly drew the attention of the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, GBI. Hundreds of leads were followed and hundreds of interviews conducted, but for years, nothing decisive emerged. In her yard, investigators found a latex glove that contained her DNA and the DNA of an unknown male, a clue that raised more questions than it answered. Interest reignited in 2017 when tips led to the arrest of Ryan Alexander Duke and Bo Dukes, both connected to the case. Duke was accused of murder, while both men were charged with concealing Tara's death. In later trials, Duke was found not guilty of murder, but guilty of concealing her death, while Bo Dukes was convicted in 2019 of obstruction and evidence tampering. Yet Tara's body has never been conclusively found. Investigators recovered bone fragments from a pecan orchard, but DNA tests were inconclusive. Questions remain about what truly happened after she vanished that night, and whether all those involved will ever fully explain what they know. For Tara's family and friends, the pain of her disappearance has endured for nearly 2 decades. Irwin County held billboards, community searches, and a pervasive hope that someone, somewhere, might know something that could unlock the final truth. Despite legal proceedings and partial convictions, Tara's loved ones continue to search for closure and for answers that have eluded investigators for years. Did someone who knew Tara personally take advantage of her trust? And if her body was moved and hidden, why has no one come forward with the truth? Story 4. In the vibrant towns of Batangas, Philippines, a young beauty queen's plans for a bright future were shattered one evening, and she vanished into thin air. What began as a routine trip turned into a national mystery, filled with conflicting clues, witness fear, and a tangled investigation that still leaves the question unanswered. What really happened to Catherine Camilon? This is a story that refuses to leave the headlines. Catherine Mangera Camilon, a 26-year-old model, teacher, and beauty pageant contestant, was reported missing on October 12, 2023, in the province of Batangas, Philippines. She was last seen on security footage at Zentro Mall in Leppert around 7 p.m., reportedly driving her vehicle before disappearing without explanation. She later phoned her mother, saying she was at a gasoline station in Bawan, but after that, all contact ended abruptly. Her car was later found abandoned, and forensic evidence linked to it would raise serious questions about her fate, but no confirmed sighting of Catherine has been made since that night. Catherine was born on January 4th, 1997, in Tui, Batangas, Philippines. From a young age, she balanced her life between education and the world of modeling and beauty pageants. In 2023, she represented her hometown in Miss Grand Tui and went on to compete as a Miss Grand Philippines 2023 candidate, a prestigious national pageant that draws viewers from across the country. Although she didn't place in the final results, her participation made her a recognizable face among pageant fans and in her community. Beyond the stage, Catherine worked as a public school teacher, admired by students and peers for her dedication and charisma. Those close to her remember her as confident, ambitious, and eager to inspire others, a life full of promise that would soon vanish without clear explanation. On October 12th, 2023, Catherine set out for what appeared to be a normal evening. CCTV footage captured her in the vicinity of Zentro Mall Leppert around 7 p.m., driving a vehicle later linked to her disappearance. Shortly afterward, she called her mother to report that she was at a gasoline station in Bawan, but that was the last confirmed communication from her. Her car was eventually found abandoned in Batangas City, and forensic teams recovered hair strands and blood samples inside. Those DNA samples were later confirmed to match Catherine's family, suggesting she'd been in the vehicle when it was left there, a chilling development that deepened concern about her fate. Police investigations quickly identified Police Major Alan De Castro, a dismissed officer, and his driver bodyguard, Jeffrey Magpante, as prime suspects in the case. Authorities filed kidnapping and serious illegal detention complaints against them, and two unnamed individuals, asserting their possible involvement in Catherine's disappearance. De Castro allegedly had a relationship with Catherine and was the last person she arranged to meet before her disappearance. He denied any involvement, but his name has been tied repeatedly to the mystery as investigators pursued every angle. In early 2024, both De Castro and Magpante were arrested in Batangas, but charges were temporarily dismissed due to lack of evidence, a move that frustrated the victim's family and stunned the nation. In August 2025, a key witness who might have testified decided to withdraw due to safety concerns, adding another layer of uncertainty to an already complex case. Despite forensic links to her abandoned vehicle and a high-profile investigation, Catherine's whereabouts remain unknown, and no definitive conclusion has been reached. Catherine's family continues to push for answers and justice. They have called on authorities to exhaust all legal avenues, appealed to the public for information, and kept her disappearance in the public eye through press statements and heartfelt social media posts. Her mother and sister have spoken openly about their fear and hope, refusing to let Catherine's story fade into silence. What if the forensic evidence found in that abandoned vehicle is the key to her fate? And if someone knows more than they're saying, why hasn't the truth come out? Story 5. On a late autumn night in Philadelphia, a young woman left for her overnight shift and was never seen alive again. What started as a familiar routine quickly turned into a nightmare that gripped an entire city. Her car stood abandoned, phones went silent, and for weeks the world watched, hoping for answers that refused to come. This is the chilling case of Kada Scott, a disappearance that shocked the Northeast and still raises haunting questions. Kada Scott, 23-year-old Philadelphia resident, vanished on October 4th, 2025, after arriving for her overnight shift at the Terrace at Chestnut Hill, a senior living facility in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Authorities reported that she left the facility shortly after arriving, somewhere between 10:30 p.m. and 10:45 p.m., and was never seen alive again. Her car remained parked in the employee lot, but there was no trace of Kada herself. Kada was born around 2002 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Friends and family described her as warm, driven, and passionate, a young woman with ambitions in modeling and pageantry and a compassionate heart toward her work in elder care. According to case files, she was active in the local pageant circuit and a Miss Pennsylvania USA hopeful in early 2025, showing promise in both beauty and personality. Kada had recently begun working the overnight shift at the Terrace at Chestnut Hill, where she was building connections and earning the respect of co-workers for her friendly attitude and professionalism. She was known for her kindness and earnest pursuit of her goals, traits that made her disappearance all the more shocking. Philadelphia's night streets, usually quiet in early October, became the backdrop of an agonizing search. Her disappearance came without warning, leaving behind only uncertainty and unanswered calls. Friends, family, and the wider community were initially confounded. Why would a young woman on the cusp of her life simply disappear? The silence of her phone became a haunting symbol, a void that only deepened the mystery. On the night of October 4th, 2025, Kada left her home to begin her shift at about 10 p.m. Once at work, she clocked in as usual, but was seen reportedly stepping outside of the facility before her shift was completed. That was the last confirmed time anyone saw her alive. Her vehicle, a 2008 black Hyundai Accent, remained in the employee parking lot, untouched except for her personal items left inside. Her smartphone, keys, wallet, and other possessions were never recovered, and her phone went silent almost immediately after she was last seen. When morning came and she did not check out of her shift or show up at home, her family reported her missing. Philadelphia police quickly launched an investigation, enlisting the FBI and homicide unit to assist in the search. Early probes uncovered harassing phone calls Kada mentioned she had been receiving in the days prior, a chilling detail that suggested someone may have been watching or contacting her before her disappearance. Investigators arrested 21-year-old Keon King on kidnapping charges, identifying him as the last person believed to have been in contact with Kada before she vanished. Additional charges, including arson, tampering with evidence, and later murder charges, have been brought against King after human remains believed to be Kada's were discovered near a vacant school and confirmed by DNA. Police continue to explore how King and Kada knew each other and whether others were involved. Despite the legal developments, significant unanswered questions remain about the moments leading up to her disappearance and how she ended up where her remains were found. The investigation continues, with authorities urging anyone with information to come forward. Kada's family has kept her name in the public eye, sharing memories and urging the community for answers. They held vigils, distributed flyers, and expressed both hope and heartbreak as the search continued. Their persistent plea for justice turned a local missing person case into a national story, a reminder of the pain left behind when someone so young goes missing. What if the harassing calls she reported in the days before were more than just intimidation? And if someone out there knows the truth, why haven't they spoken up yet? They were known for their beauty, their confidence, and the futures they were building. But what lingers most is the silence left behind. Different places, different years, the same unanswered questions, and the same families waiting for truth. Remembering them is not about how they vanished, but who they were. This is Vanished Stories, where the missing are never forgotten.